We all struggle, and education is supposed to be the one safe place where all kids get a chance. And that's what I wanted to do was provide a safe place that allowed everybody to have the same opportunity.
I see it. There's a lot of structure in your organization, in your thought process, which is great because then only innovation can happen. But I would love to know, have these PLCs been talking about professional development on AI tools? Like,
Kids need a phone call from us to get to school. We're going to make the phone call. If the kid misses the bus, we're going to send the school van to pick up the kid, right? If the kid is sick, we're going to ask the family, what can we do? Do you need a ride to the doctor? How can we help that kid,
all innovative strategies have you guys brought in lately in the school for the students or the teachers?
Innovation strategies, again, the huge one is trimesters, an innovation system strategy to give kids more choice, to provide time for remediation, provide time for interventions, provide times for kids to have choices of classes that they want to take. Provide
So, welcome, school leaders and my fellow educators. I'm Avinash Bansal, co-founder at TomoClub. And today on our TomoClub podcast series, we have the superintendent of Total Lake School District.
Yep.
Let
Tootle
me
Lake.
Total Lake. So, how do you pronounce it?
Tootle Lake.
Total Lake. Okay. And Christopher Schumaker has been the superintendent. You have joined this school district very recently, I guess. Like, it's been a year.
Yep, this is my second year here.
Perfect. So today's topic that we're going to discuss is about innovation in education. And before we jump into that discussion, it would be really amazing, Christopher, if you can give us a snapshot of your journey into education.
Oh, absolutely. I started education probably 23 years ago in my hometown of Okanagan. I was able to become a paraprofessional at Wenatchee College. Well, I was doing my AA degree and I was able to become a para at Omak Elementary. So for 2 years, I got to work with K-5 students, doing all sorts of stuff, recess, curriculum, supervision, all sorts of stuff. And I just had so much fun and it just reinforced my passion for education. And so from there, I went to Central Washington University and got my BA in history and political science. And then from there, I worked at my hometown for a couple years. And then from there, I went over to Shelton, Washington, the high climbers. And I worked at a junior high for about 5 years. And during that time, I went back weekends to get my master's in educational administration from Central Washington University. And I was also a dean of students and an athletic director at Shelton. And then from there, I got my first vice principal job at a very small district, PL. And I was there for about 4 years and I left being the principal. And then they had a reduction in force, and the counselor and myself got let go because, in small schools, the priority is to save teachers. And the superintendent took over the principal duties again, and myself and our counselor went and got new jobs, and then that landed me at White Pass. And then while I was at White Pass, I was able to be a high school principal for 8 years there, also a CTE director. And while I was there, I got my superintendent credential. And then, 8 years of administration, I wanted to become a superintendent. So from there, I spent a year at Wishram. Wishram was a small school in Eastern Washington, about
Right.
125 kids, almost 70% Native American. And we done some really good stuff there. Was able to get $1 million investment from the state to help buy portables, help get grants to redo the entire older building. It was one of the oldest buildings in Washington State when it came to high school. And so we were able to get it basically reconditioned and reformatted with newer technology, especially heating and academic technology. And then from there, I came to Tootle Lake, where I'm on my second year journey here, and we're doing some good things. So that's just a little bit about me.
No, I love that. I think that's a lot of different experiences, different roles.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that you don't never become a superintendent without doing the hustle. So you have to go from the journey, um, bottom to top, to understand every nuance. So I think when we talk about innovation, that's what you need. You need to understand each level problems and challenges. So yeah, it's fun. But what got you excited to work in education in the first place?
You know, what got me excited about working in education is, education was my safe place growing up. I came from a home that had some difficulties. My family was more on the poor side, and school was my safe place. Is where I made sure, school's where I got fed sometimes. And school is where I was able to be protected and where I had nurturing adults around me. And from there, just going through school, I felt like this is my safe place. And I saw how the impact that school had on my life and the impact that it had on the lives of my friends. And I just wanted to continue that. And so when I was able to go to college, I said, I want to be a teacher. I want to impact other kids. I want to impact lives. I want to give back. So as a teacher, I coached, I taught, and I saw the struggles that my kids had. And as a teacher, I knew that I could only do so much with the system. So that lit a fire in me to become a principal because as a principal, I felt I could do more systematic wise for my whole building, for all the kids in my school. And, that was good. But then I thought, there's a whole district, there's a whole need out there. And if I really want to be able to attack the system and look for improvements and enhancements and really model success for everyone, it would be better as a superintendent. So when I went back to my superintendent and got my credentials, I felt that as a superintendent, then I could make the most strong impact on the lives of our young people and also help model systems for teachers to be successful and for kids to be successful. Because, not only do you have to support the kids, you have to support the teachers because the teachers have to have the curriculum, the time, the professional development to be the teachers that you need them to be able to support the kids. And it's called reciprocal accountability, that teachers have to be prepared and then the kids are prepared. And if the kids show their preparedness, then the teachers are demonstrating that they're prepared. So and it's the same thing for principals and superintendents and school boards. This idea of reciprocal accountability, where everybody's success is geared towards the success of each other. So that's kind of been my philosophy and kind of how I've handled things. But yeah, I just, education was just to help and give back and make the system better because, we all struggle. And education is supposed to be the one safe place where all kids get a chance. And that's what I wanted to do was provide a safe place that allowed everybody to have the same opportunity, but the opportunity for success.
Wow. No, I love that. I think having that clarity that I want to do something because it's going to create a bigger and better impact. I think that clarity is not so easy to find. So I'm glad you could. And
Yeah.
today's topic is going to be about innovation in education. And I think a lot of time innovation is usually considered to be technological, but I think it is a way to look at a problem statement from a very first principle theory, and you try to solve it both structurally, people wise, processes wise, and of course tech wise. So I think there is a lot of angle to it. So we would definitely dive into it. But before that, there's a big misconception that innovation happens at urban centers, right? And people don't look at rural school districts to be innovating because of lack of funds or not a lot of students count. So what's your understanding about innovation in a rural school district?
Absolutely. So, rural education is one of those areas that struggle in our nation. Because, like you said, rural education, usually you have less money, you have less businesses to support your campus through tax dollars, you have less population to support, through land taxes, you have less resources because when adults get jobs and they want to become teachers, right? Moving to a rural area is hard because there may be lack of housing, there may be lack of jobs for their spouses. So sometimes, we don't get the top quality candidates as you might get at an urban area. And, those are where we struggle. And then also, with less dollars, usually rural schools are bigger geographically
Hmm.
than urban schools. So we're having to travel all of these roads. Sometimes we're going over mountains, sometimes we're on dirt roads. And, we have to keep up our transportation costs. We have to make sure that we have modern school buildings. And it's just harder because you have to
Right.
do a lot more fundraising and a lot more asking people to volunteer, to donate their time, and trying to get creative on how you do things. Because absolutely, rural education is great in the aspect it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And in a rural education, everybody knows everybody and
Hmm.
everybody's looking out for the kids and all the adults are usually involved. And in an urban setting, you have more faces, more teachers, and if the system is too big, sometimes kids can get lost in that system.
Yeah.
But our problem is, in rural education, kids don't get lost in our system. Sometimes we don't have the necessary materials and means to support those students. I apologize.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I would say with that.
No, absolutely. I think those are very valid points. But then, how do you spark innovation, like that kind of
Mhm.
culture, when there are not so many resources?
Absolutely. So, like when you have a rural campus, career and technical education is one of those ways that you kind of spark that innovation. You can park like in our area, we have the Forest Service next to us. We have farming next to us. We have tourism next to us. And we do have some small businesses. So what we do is in our career and technical education program, it reflects the needs of our community. So at our district, we're going to offer forestry. We offer FFA, Future Farmers of America. Our business department offers FBLA and business classes. And that's kind of how we partnership with the community at large to help our kids get access to some of that. And then also as a small campus, we reach out to like Central Washington University or Washington State University or University of Washington. And we do college in the classroom where we offer college classes on our campus that kids can take via technology. We offer internships. We bring community members in to come assist us with mentoring. We have volunteers that come in that help us read to kids. And a lot of it is just connecting with your partners. And it's those partnerships that really help a small school thrive. Because again, we're small, we're remote, we don't have a lot of money and a lot of those tools that bigger districts have. So it's about partnerships and it's about lines of communication and finding those government entities or those business partners or those strong community members that we can have those relationships with to get our kids those exposure to real world, real life situations. So that way they can flourish when they leave our doors.
Perfect. No, I love that. I think those are good strategies, partnerships, as well as career and technical education. So, tell me more about your. Ha- I heard. I'm not sure whether you guys are you a part of AVID program. The
We do. We've just started the AVID program for a couple years, and we have a core freshman AVID group that we go through. And AVID's a great program. I mean, it teaches kids how to be college ready, but in a small school, not all kids are going to go to college, right? So we emphasize a lot with college preparedness, but also career and technical education preparedness. So that way we have two pipelines. We have kids that are ready to go into the career field automatically after graduation, and then we have those kids that are ready to go to the academic field right after graduation. And again, AVID is a great program, and staff are being trained on how to utilize it and implement it. But even AVID is expensive because AVID's not free. For us to be part of AVID, it's almost $20,000 a year to just have their curriculum, have their processes, teach our staff. And where does that money come from, right? As a small school, that could be a big chunk of our budget. And sometimes we're making decisions on what's best for kids or what needs to be repaired or what needs to be replaced facility wise, right? So we have to make those hard choices. But my bet is always putting our money on the kids. And we always manage to fix things. But, again, money is a big issue, especially in our state right now.
No, I agree with you. So explain me the how the AVID programs actually works for you. Has it given some results? Has it shown some promising outcomes?
Yeah. We've been doing, I think, AVID now for about 3 years, and we were a small school test pilot for AVID in our state of Washington. And through it, our teachers got some additional training. And then with that, they implemented the AVID notebooks on how kids can take notes, on how they analyze their schoolwork, how they write their reflective thoughts. Basically, AVID is teaching students how to be students. So that way, when they go to college, they are much more successful. And in this is like, with that comes teaching and learning strategies for teachers, come study skills for students, especially around organization, keeping due dates, making sure that all of your assignments are prepared, making sure that you're hitting those preparation standards. Because AVID's about teaching kids how to be learners and how to self-advocate for themselves.
Mm.
And again, our teachers are given curriculum and methods to employ AVID in their standard curriculum. So
Mm.
AVID strategies are used in history, in English, in science. So that way our kids are maximizing their learning, maximizing their retention, and also advocating for themselves. And our teachers are making sure that that rigor is there and teaching those college type skills kids need to be successful when they go to higher education. So I think those are the things that AVID's really done for us.
Makes so much sense. And I'm so glad that you guys are going out of the way to invest in such kind of programs because they can actually move a lot of things. Uh, Also, I was reading about how you guys are innovating and thinking about creating a tri semester kind of a system. Right?
Yeah,
So tell us more about it. This is something that is not very common. So there must be some logic behind it. I would love to know that.
absolutely. So here's the unique thing about our school, right? So we are remote, but there is a community college that's about 20 miles away. And this community college does a great job of helping our students graduate with an AA degree. But in our state, Running Start, college is free for kids, free for high school kids that take Running Start in the 11th and 12th grade. Then they can graduate with a diploma and also graduate with an AA transfer degree. But the thing is this college probably takes about 75% of our seniors and also about half of our juniors.
Hmm.
So when you got your best and brightest going to another campus, that hurts your culture.
True.
That hurts your norms as a school because those are your leaders. Those are your movers and shakers in the student body because those kids that are going to college, they want to be successful and usually they're your best and brightest, right? And also that, the community college, when a kid goes to there, for every student, we lose about $15,000
Right.
because that's the home district. We have to pay their tuition. So right now, I'm losing about $530,000 a year by having my juniors and seniors go to the community college. And not only are we paying that tuition, but it also hurts our K-12 programs. So when you take 15,000 out of your district, it's hurting your kindergarten, it's hurting your first grade, it's hurting your second grade, your third grade. And we just wanted to stop that bleed. Now, as a parent myself, I totally get free college. I totally get kids need to be challenged. But sometimes in our state, there are no systems in place to make sure students are prepared to go. So as a 10th grader, when you're an 11th grader, let's say you had poor attendance. Let's say you failed your freshman or sophomore year. Let's say you failed your math class, your science class. You can still go to the community college without any restrictions. And then once you get to the community college, they're saying you need to be adults. We're going to treat you like adults. So if
Hmm.
you fail a class, we're going to put you on probation. And then if you do it again, you're not being successful. Well, you're going to go back to your home district. And then as a home district, what do we have to do? We have to remeditate, we have to basically re-educate, and we have to get those students who performed poor at the community college back up so that way they can graduate on time with their peers. So that's one of the things that, as a leader here in Washington State, I think it's important that our legislature and our governor and our higher educational leaders recognize that not all kids are prepared to go to college in the
Right.
11th and 12th. And because of that, they need to have some type of criteria or some type of conditions to make sure that those kids meet in order to be successful. Because if they're not successful, they treat them like any other 21, 22-year-old college student. You're not getting it done. You can go find somewhere else. And what is that? That's back to us because we're the home school, we're the public school, and we want to help those students and we want to serve them and we want to get them graduated. But it's that big disconnect because when students leave, they take our public education money away from us.
Yeah.
But then when they come back without having that ability to perform at that level, then it's our job to remediate them. And it's a vicious loop.
Right.
And but again, I support that higher end college, and I support that that passion for those kids that want to move up, and they should. And so going back to that original question, sorry, I kind of got on my soapbox there,
Okay.
was the trimester. The thought is basically community college is a competitor for us. They take our juniors and they take our seniors. So how do we compete with a community college to want our kids to stay on campus and get their education from us? So before we had a standard semester based, we had first semester, second semester, 7 period days, right? Well, that locks in kids. They only get so many choices for electives, and then they have to take all the requirements, right? So their schedules are pretty rigid and pretty, just rigid. But
Yeah.
at community college, they can offer their classes at so many different times. Some of it can be online. I mean, some of our high school kids will have 3 classes a week that they have to go to for full credit, where
Mm.
in the typical high school, they're going to 7 classes every day. So again, if I'm a kid and I want to go to a community college, it's like almost a vacation for me because I can take these 3 classes whenever I want. I can sleep in, and as
Yeah.
long as I make sure I get the work done, I get the credit. So how do you compete with that, right? So
Exactly.
basically, with the trimester, we opened it up. So instead of having 2 semesters, now we have 3 semesters. So it's like a kid almost gets an entire semester of electives. And then in that, we tried to generate classes that kids would like. One class is like the history of baseball. And in the history of baseball, we have statistics built into it. We have communication built into it. We have higher level English built into it. So that way, our kids are taking these classes that kind of generate their interest and makes them want to come back because they have more choices for electives. And then with our standard, let's say 11 English 1 and 11 English 2, if they fail either semester of English, that third semester, they can make up that section of English that they failed. So that way it helps keep kids on track for graduation. It gives them more choice for remediation. It gives them more opportunities to look at different electives that they're interested in. And it also gives our teachers more choices to teach about their passions, right? Because an English teacher, yeah, they teach ninth, 10th, 11th grade, but if you give them a choice to teach, like, let's say, a Stephen King literature class, right? Where they can use that genre, those horror novels to teach things to kids and help kids dig deeper into Stephen King. Or maybe we offer fire science because we have more electives and kids can learn about fire science and how to be a firefighter and maybe move down that CTE path. It's about giving kids choice, giving them options. And also, when kids are going to the running start to college, if we have classes here that they might want to take, our state does pay 1.4 FTE. So they could take some classes at a community college but still come back and take maybe 1 or 2 classes with us. So we're able to keep some of that funding. So the reason why we went to a trimester was one is try to get some of our funding that we're losing back, give kids more opportunities and more choices to look at things that they like, things that pertain to them, and then just offer more electives to diversify what we're teaching as a small school. And some of that might be through online programming that we have, partnerships that we have, work study. But again, it gives kids the opportunity to expand what they're available to. And this trimester, this is an experience for us. This is year one. So I'd love to see you in a year and tell you how we did.
No, actually, now I understand there's a backstory to this entire change. And
Yeah.
unless you would have walked me through it, I would have not understood the nuances of it, the community college, the positive and the negative, and how it's impacting your top line, and then how trimester can actually save it. So I think all the best for it. I hope it really works out. But because of that, you need to do a lot of professional development of your teacher, right? For the new
Hmm.
system. So, and also there's a concept of PLC, right? Professional
Hmm.
community. So, how do you manage that right now? Can you walk us through your professional development strategies
Sure.
to?
Absolutely. So last year, during my first year, we knew that the system was somewhat broken.
Hmm.
Tootle Lake has been challenged. They went through like three superintendents in 3 years. Their high school principal kept coming and going. And so they've had a real lack of leadership and a real lack of direction. Well, last year we got a community group together with teachers, administration, parents, and we talked about what are our goals? What do we want to do in the years ahead? So, through those conversations, we developed a really strong strategic plan. And the board approved that strategic plan in the summer. And with that, we've used that as our template on how are we going to improve teaching and learning? How are we going to improve the rigor? How are we going to improve the graduation rate? How are we going to improve student involvement in school? So on and so on. And one of those was powerful teaching and learning. And the research shows that PLCs, when properly done, and you follow the design and the purpose of a PLC, and you make it meaningful for teachers, and you actually look for results and see where you're heading, it can be very impactful to student learning. So part of that is we give 1 day a week on a Wednesday. We have an early release and we get out of school at 1:30 or 1:30 and teachers stay till 3:30. So we give 90 minutes a week that our teachers will be able to meet in common grade PLCs, common department PLCs. And following the DeForest method, they're going to have problems of practices. It's going to be combined solutions. They're going to test those solutions. They're going to see if their kids are getting it. And if the kids are not getting it, how can they change so that kids can get it better? And they're going to evaluate that work. And then it's going to be that continuous process monthly on how are we doing our student learning? How are we impacting our students? Are our students responding? Because when all the teachers are on that same page and kind of getting that communal development together and looking at those strategies and how to impact, we think that we're going to see a higher rate of return on our investment. So that's one way. The second way is making sure that our teachers continue to get professional development. A good way is, they continue to get development through AVID. We've been strengthening their PLC training. We've been enhancing what our CTE teachers are exposed to and what they're going to be offering. So it's those kind of things that are based around our strategic plan and how we're implementing that.
Mhm.
Because, a couple of years ago, there was no single purpose. Now we have a document that says this is how we're going to spend our money. These are our goals, and these are what we want our outcomes to be. And our teachers, they're fired up about PLCs, and we've made sure to make sure that we've trained them right on PLCs. We've sent them to different PLC conferences and workshops. and they're ready. And I think that they really want to see the benefits of PLC. So I think when the district provides the direction and the funding and the support, and you give the teachers the opportunity to meet, and you give them the opportunity to look at their data, and give them the opportunity to focus on common practices and common expectations, and then make sure that they're assessing the kids and progress monitoring and RTI, the response to the interventions. I think we're going to see gains on our investment. So I'm very proud of how our teachers have taken that and how we've moved our district forward on that.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. Honestly, if I see it, there's a lot of structure in your organization, in your thought process, which is great because then only innovation can happen. But I would love to know, have these PLCs been talking about professional development on AI tools? Like, have they worked on how they can use AI to save time or how to use ethically AI? Any condition on that?
Yeah. So our PLCs are fairly new. We tried to model PLCs last year, but again, those were like our PLCs. And through last year and this summer, with staff receiving more training, more development, more organization around PLCs, we do plan to see a much more stronger PLC presence this year. And I do know that our teachers are accessing AI. AI is a powerful tool for generating student questions, summarizing best practices. AI is just a powerful tool all around. But then we also have to deal with how are kids using AI to cheat?
Yeah.
How are kids using AI to minimize their work? And so then you get into AI detectors and all of that fun stuff. But one thing our teachers are doing too is they're using AI as a tool. And they say, I don't care that you used AI in your work. I want to see your AI prompts. I
Yeah.
want to see the questions you asked AI to see how you got your answers. I want to be able to follow your thinking. And then if you used AI, what were your resources? How did you verify your work? How did you verify that AI is correct, right? Because on every AI, there's that little heading on the bottom that says, I might be wrong. Double check my facts. So, those are teaching practices that teachers are incorporating in their lessons. And AI is still new to rural schools. So, we're still developing that as we move forward. And we have a long way to go. But you're absolutely right. AI does have a place in the classroom as long as it's structured and it's used as a learning tool and we're questioning what we're being shown. Because that's what education is, right? It teaches us to question and to verify. Because if we don't have those skills, we can't think for ourselves.
No, I agree. 100% agree with that. Um, I actually wonder, what are those metrics you as a school leader always keep a track on? If I am imagine there's a dashboard in front of you which is showing a real-time image of what's going on in the district, what would be that
Absolutely.
metrics be?
The first matrix I always look at is our average daily attendance rate.
Hmm.
Because if the kids are not here, they're not getting it.
Yeah.
And there are so many reasons why kids are absent. It could be home life, it could be illness, it could be transportation. As a district, we work really hard on meeting the needs of our kids. And if kids need a phone call from us to get to school, we're going to make the phone call. If the kid misses the bus, we're going to send the school van to pick up the kid, right? If the kid is sick, we're going to ask the family, what can we do? Do you need a ride to the doctor? How can we help that kid? If it's food scarcity, we can hook that family up with some food services to try to donate food and get that child fed. So attendance is that big matrix that we look at. And then the second matrix I look at is our school improvement goals. So
Hmm.
every month, I report out to our board about our strategic plan, and principals have SMART goals that they're working with each of their teachers. And then the principals have SMART goals that they're working with me. And I have SMART goals that I'm working with my board. So it comes back to that term reciprocal accountability. And through our SMART goals, we're monitoring our alignment with our school improvement plans. We're monitoring our alignment with our strategic plan. And we're seeing how the teaching and learning is occurring in the classroom. And then those teachers are sharing their goals with their other teachers. And then in their conferences with their principal, they're sharing those goals with the principal. They're kind of sharing the goals with me. And we're seeing kind of how we're aligning and how we're rowing that boat forward, right? And so the second thing I would look at is money, right? Money's hard. So every week we're looking at our budget numbers, we're looking at what we're sending out, what we're receiving in student money, because we got to make sure that we always maintain that proper fund balance. And in our state, there are a lot of schools that are going into receivership. I mean, there's a big district, Bellevue. They're one of the richest districts in our state, and they're having to sell property just to balance their budget.
Wow.
And with our state taking almost, they say a $12 billion hit in tax revenue, there's not much money for education. Special education's underfunded. Um, our state funding model is very messed up. And schools just don't receive the money to help educate all of their kids at a level that they should get. So again, I look at attendance, I look at student growth goal data to make sure that our data is aligning with what our vision and our mission is and those goals that we set in our strategic plan and our school improvement. I'm looking at our budget numbers to make sure that, we're not overspending, that we're maintaining that adequately daily cash flow.
Mhm.
And then, the fourth thing I'm looking at again is our student testing data, right?
Mm.
Easy CBM, STAR testing, state standardized test scores, because we have to know how our students are doing so we know how to help, how to assist, how to put them in proper placement. And based on those standardized test scores or those monthly progress monitoring scores, that's how we're doing our student growth goals. We're aligning our goals to those standardized testing to make sure we're helping kids to be better readers. We're helping kids to be better mathematicians and just trying to be successful the best that we can.
Right. No, absolutely. This is bang on. Um, just I want to understand about what all innovative strategies have you guys brought in lately in the school for the students or the teachers?
Yeah. Innovation strategies, again, the huge one is trimesters, an innovation system strategy to give kids more choice, to provide time for remediation, provide time for interventions, provide times for kids to have choices of classes that they want to take, provide times for teachers to have choices of things that they want to teach that personally enrich them. So, other innovations is, continuing with the AVID strategy. Because as a small rural school, sometimes it's hard to make sure that kids are getting that college awareness and that college preparatoriness that they need to be successful as college students. So, the introduction of AVID and the continued to use of that. And also the expansion in our CTE programming. We've had success with our FBLA students reaching state. We had one go to nationals for being an expert in Robert or in rules of what is it, Robin Rules of Order or forget the name of it, but Robert's Rules of Order. He went to the national competition as an expert.
Yeah.
Starting fire science classes to teach our kids how to fight wildfires, to teach them how to fight structural fires, to teach kids to kind of flow into our volunteer fire department and get that expertise, right? And then once they're kind of done with that program, they can go off and maybe get a full-time firefighter technician job or an EMT job or something where they can make some good money doing that. And also talking about FFA, our farming, teaching
Yeah.
kids how to grow, teaching kids how to take care of animals, teaching kids how to be farmers, how to manage the land, how to manage income, how to manage product, how to take that product to another area to sell. Um, it's just all of those things that we're doing. And then robotics, for a small school, we have a very strong robotics program
Yeah.
that goes to a lot of state competitions, teaching our kids about drones. And you know how we pay for all of this? Grants. We apply for grants. We partner with businesses to seek donations. And sometimes even families will donate. So, I think we have a very strong robotics program that helps kids help build their robots, help build battle bots, fly drones, and then our FFA program, our strong FBLA program, and then also just our work that we do with AVID. And the fact is we're working hard through again with the trimester system, just trying to make it better. And we also have an intervention program called Core Flex, which rewards kids for doing well, gives them adult time. But we also, during that Core Flex time, we allow time for remediation, for organization, for study skills, and getting that teacher one-on-one support. And when I say that kids get choice time during Core Flex, they get time where they can, hang with friends, go to the gym and play basketball.
Yeah.
Or we also offer community members that come in and hold specialty classes with our kids. So, like rock and roll or sewing or other things that those kids can get exposure to. So there are lots of different things that we try just to make the holistic approach to education more ingrained in a small school environment.
No, I love the fact. I think grants is the way to go. So a lot of school leaders actually talk to me and ask about the grant writing stuff. So can you explain a little bit more about what was your playbook for securing grants?
Yeah. A lot of the way that we get our grants is through OSPI. They're our Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, Washington State. So they have a list of grants that we can apply for. We also look for grants. Boeing offers grants. Microsoft offer grants. There are local businesses in our area that also offer grants. And sometimes we hear about these grants from word of mouth from employees that have students that go to school here. We get referred to some of these grants through officials at OSPI that might hear of them, that might apply. We have a local educational service district, 112 in our area out of Vancouver, Washington, that assists us in looking for grants and will help us write grants. And some of the grants I will try to write. Some of our teachers write grants. And we have like a retired teacher association that will also give us classroom-based grants to help us purchase classroom supplies and classroom activities. And then we also have a strong PTO in our elementary that helps support kids at that level with some grants and stuff. So a lot of it is just trying to go out and see what's out there and asking people and words of mouth. Because in a small school, you have to be active like that and have to advocate for yourself to find where the money is so that way we can meet those needs.
No, I agree with you, but it's a very good strategy. I think um, a lot of school leaders can learn from that because fundraising is a like any head of the organizations, their main job is to secure finances.
Yeah.
And so I think you cannot shy away from it, even from whatever county you are, how much rich your district might be. But I think it's always a work in
Yeah.
motion. So great
You
job.
know, yeah, well, just a lot of times a small rural school is almost like a private school.
Hmm.
Constantly having to fundraise, constantly having to find those benefactors that can support your approach.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's a very interesting perspective of how school works in a rural district center. Um, any closing remarks, that you want to share to other school leaders who are listening to this podcast?
Yeah. Just some closing remarks. I think it's important that as a leader, you have a strong sense of values and you have a strong sense of priority. Because as a small school leader, you're making a lot of decisions. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're not going to make everybody angry either, right? You're going to have to navigate a very complex system because in a small community, the school and the community are one. Because sometimes in a small community, the school is the biggest employer, or the school is where everything happens. The school is the service for the kids. And you
Hmm.
have to make sure that you communicate well, that you're present, you're seen. And again, you have that strong conviction. You have those strong moral compass that keeps you focused. And people know that when you say something, that you'll act on it and
Right.
that they could trust you. Because again, it goes back to that reciprocal accountability. The school's success is the community's success, right? And if the community is being successful, then the school is going to be successful, especially around levy time or bond time or those things when you need to go to the community and say, hey, I need your support. Can you support us? And if the community feels that the school is a reflection of itself and reflects its values and its traditions and its priorities, then they're going to support the school because the school has the community as its center priority and making sure that we're delivering kids who reflect the community and who are going to be productive adults and successful adults as they go out in the workforce or the academic or the military or whatever path that they go, they know that they're going to be well prepared from an education here at Tootle Lake.
Right. No, but it's a story that you also control. Like it's a narrative, uh, which as a school leader you have to reiterate and refocus and always propagate. So otherwise that doesn't happen in terms of funding or
Yeah,
in terms of any other strategy. But yeah, I think I love the overall approach that you guys are doing. Thank you so much for sharing this
yeah,
today with us. And yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of school leaders will find a lot of value in this conversation today.
absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Hold on.
Thank you for watching. Join our journey at TomoClub